Carolyn Doobie here. What's the play for today? Well, I actually don't have any idea. I am completely in my head right now, which means everything I think of, I shoot down. That first step, getting started, it's feeling a little paralyzing right now. Well, this video is part of the Let's Play series, and the focus of late has been having no expectations to play. And what do I have but a mountain of expectations that are paralyzing me? So in this video, you're going to see how I deal with that because, yeah, it happens to me too. And it happens in a blink of an eye. Before I knew it, I was up in my head and absolutely feeling paralyzed. But the good news is there's a really easy way to get over it, to get back into the playful mode, because as of right now, my muse has completely left the building. Whenever I'm in my head, she's like, yeah, I'm not going to hang around until you start playing. So here's how I handle it when I can't figure out where to start. I grab whatever's around me and I start using it, even if I have no idea what I'm doing or if what I think I'm doing is kind of goofy. So what I've grabbed is what was around me. And that was this set of gel pens that I've gotten recently that I really haven't used a whole lot. And then also this piece of wood that was left over from a home repair project. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to take these things because it's within reach and I'm just going to start doing something, anything. So I'm just scribbling randomly with different colors on the wood. By the way, kind of happy that it actually writes on the wood. I wasn't sure if these gel pens would do that, but they definitely are. And I am just making weirdo shapes. No plan, no intention, trying out different colors and seeing what happens with it. Now, I don't know if these gel pens will react when I put something on top of them. I don't know if they bleed through. Like I said, I really haven't used them much. So why not? I'm just going to play around with it. Once I started doing this, then I'm actually starting to do something, and then I'm already getting in a little more playful mood. I'm enjoying putting the scribbles on it. It's very loose, and again, where is this going? I have no idea whatsoever, because at this point, the muse is still not around. I'm still kind of floating between my head and my hand, but I'm getting closer to being in the play. Well, the next thing I wanted to add were some words to it. So I grabbed this set of rubber stamps that I picked up, I think at Walmart, and I've got an ink pad here, and I couldn't decide what word to stamp. Because of course it had to be an important word, a meaningful word, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was heading right back up into my head. So what am I going to do when I start having all those thoughts about this needs to be the right word, the perfect word, a meaningful word, what's the meaning in this, all that kind of left brain, sort of paralyzing thought kind of stuff? I simply just started stamping random letters. I'm like, oh, so you think I have to have a perfect word? Yeah, not going to happen. I'm just going to stamp random stuff. Because anything that stops me from actually doing, that's totally in my way. So I just needed to be doing. And once I start doing things, it eventually all comes together. So I've switched ink pads here to one that was a little bit juicier. And right after doing that, I started to really like the letter B, like the shape of it. So I started stamping it all over the place. And then I decided, you know what? I could make that a word. I could make it the word be. So my muse is starting to whisper some things to me. She's starting to give me a little bit of guidance here, but she was in no way, shape, or form going to start doing that as long as I was in my head. And the only way for me to get out of my head was to start doing something, even if it didn't make a whole lot of sense. Because I have to admit, there are some letters on there that don't form any kind of word. But I started having fun with the E, and I started putting a bunch of E's together. And then all of a sudden the muse dropped another hint to me about what I should do, and she kind of whispered another letter into my ear, and that's the letter K. And so now I've got eek. So I've got B and I've got eek all over this page, because you know what? That kind of summed up how I was feeling. Because I do know that if I just let things be what they are, everything turns out okay. After all, this is mixed media and layers. But I also had a whole lot of eek going on when I was trapped in my head. And I went right back up into my head after I just had that fun stamping, trying to decide what colors I wanted to use next. So, to help myself with that, I went and grabbed a whole bunch of paint tubes that are pretty much empty. But I won't throw the paint tubes away because there's still a little bit of paint in them. So I'm going to show you how I get every last little drop of color out of these tubes. One of the ways is if you take something in like a really skinny palette knife, which this is, and when you go in and grab some of the paint and pull it out, you can do it, except that this paint is so dried up in there. I've hung onto this empty tube of paint for so long. The stuff in there is more like, it's very rubbery. It's pretty much almost dried out. So maybe that one, I can let it go. I'm going to grab another tube of yellow. Yes, I have lots of these yellow ones to use. And I can stick that little thing in there and clean out some of the larger chunks that are in there. And I'm just going to scrape it along on here to get some color on the page, the block, whatever it is I'm working on. But there's also another way. If you don't have one of these little things, or you decide you want to get more of the paint out of there and go all in, this, I will tell you, is a commitment. Yes, I'm about to make a commitment to this empty tube of paint because I'm going to just cut it open. Once I cut it open, though, I can't seal it back up. So what that means is I need to use up all the paint that's in there. And quite frankly, that's a pretty nice nudge right now to know that I have to use it up. Because you've probably caught on by this point in the video that I'm really keep bouncing right back into my head. So every time I think I'm feeling all loose and free and diving into the play, some part of me starts overthinking it, that left brain, and I'm bouncing right back into my head. And I could definitely tell I was starting to get into the play because making decisions just became a whole lot easier for me. So some of the letters I wanted to cover up. The ones that didn't quite spell a word, the ones that were the ones that got me started, yeah, those I felt pretty comfortable covering those up. And I'm just grabbing different colors here and putting it around the different words, the eeks and the bees. And there's all sorts of good, juicy paint right there in that top. It's almost like, you know, when you eat lobster or crab and you find that really good chunk of meat right in the claw, that's kind of what the end of the paint tube is like. So the really juicy stuff, that's right there near the tip. And it's also the stuff I can't squirt out. So now I've made this commitment. I'm opening up all these tubes. I've got to use up all this paint because, yes, there is a contractual obligation. Once I put that paint out, I don't want to waste it and I want to use it up. And that's forcing me to play and do and go, which is exactly what I needed to get out of my head. I also know that I'm out of my head. Boy, that sounds like I've got all sorts of emotional problems, but you know what I mean. When I'm actually in the play and not overthinking it, I know that that's happening when I allow myself to be incredibly imprecise. When if something covers up something that I didn't mean for it to, I just sort of go, oh yeah, oh well, it's just an oops. And it's very easy for me to take that attitude. That tells me that I'm in the play zone. And I'm just having a good time at this point, putting color around in different places. Now the letters, I've about got everything filled in except for where the words are, so I need to figure out what color I want to do there. And of course I wanted a color that I didn't already have out, so I grabbed a little bit of orange and now I am just painting right over the letters. And what I really wanted was just sort of a light ghosting of bright orange around the letters. Yeah, a nice ghosting of something bright. You can see where the issue is with that plan already. But what it is an oops. So those letters are a little more obscured than what I wanted them to be, but it's an outstanding opportunity presenting suddenly. Because now what I'm going to do is take a fine liner that's filled with black ink and just trace over some of the letters. Actually, not some of them. I'm going to do all of them. And I'm using the fine liner, and if you're not familiar with fine liners, I've got a video that explains them and why I use them to write over things like wet paint. I'll have the link down below for you. But here comes the oops. See that big glob that was there right on the eek? And then I had another big glob over on the bee. Those were outstanding opportunities presenting suddenly. And if I'm going to have some dots and blobs, I might as well make it look like it fits, so I added some more splatter to it. And that black rectangle, I just added more of them in different places and was just having fun kind of coloring in with one of these fine liners in different spots. And if you'd like to see more of those oops moments happening, make sure you hit that subscribe button. That way you'll know each time I have a video out, and most of the time my videos have an oopsie in them. Well, here it is. Everything's pretty wet. The paint's still fairly wet. The ink is most definitely still wet. You can see that fine liner black ink there being so shiny, but yet I want to write on this. Now with this, I will tell you that using a pen and wet paint is a really quick way to ruin it. So I've got this fountain pen and I am trying to write on the wet paint and even damp paint because it's basically scratching up the paint or it's not adhering there. And one would think I could take the hint in the first area, but no, I'm just going to keep going and trying it in several places. But eventually, I'm going to take the hint and stop using the fountain pen on here. So I decided to grab some of those gel pens because they were a lot juicier than what a fountain pen is for me. So I just decided I'd see if they'd work. And by golly, you know what? They actually did write fairly well on the damp paint. Now again, I don't really recommend this because it definitely does shorten the life of your pen. So if you're patient, you can let paint dry completely and totally, and then it's not nearly as risky for your pens. But I just couldn't wait. I was having a little too much fun playing, and I didn't want to stop and actually wait for something to dry. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to start adding some more paint on here to make it even harder for it to dry by putting more wet stuff on here. Well, I got called away, and that actually allowed for some of this stuff to dry. Now, it's not completely dry because that one black rectangle of black ink up there, it's still shiny and it's still pretty wet. But I'm not going to let that stop me. I want to put a big word in black paint on here. I'm going to do the word B. You can see where I got the inspiration for that word on this. And the stencil that I'm using is called the Vintage Typewriter Stencil Jumbo from over at StencilGirl Products. And I'm just going to put that on there, and yep, the stencil is hitting the wet paint or the wet ink that's back there. But don't worry, I'll show you how I handle that. And I'm just going to be pouncing some paint right here up and down with a cosmetic sponge, just plain old black acrylic paint, to put in to fill in the word here. Now with this, I'm actually not going to be completely happy with all of my stenciling. But the good news is this is mixed media and that's easy to fix. So I think I'm about finished here with the letter, and when I lift it up, there's going to be some black ink on the back there. That's from that wet spot. I'm just going to wipe that off with my finger. Now as I look at that E, a little bit of the tip, it's not quite as dark as what I want. So all I'm going to do is put the stencil right back on top of it and just put a little more black paint right there. So if you ever have stenciling that you think isn't quite what you want, you can always put the stencil right back on top. Well, now to line up the second letter, the B in B, what I'm going to do is put the letter B on top of the E. That way the bottom of the letters are about lined up, and then I'm just going to gently slide it over to the side. That's how I line up my letters. It's not precise, it's not mathematical, but it's quick and it's easy and it works for me. Now, if you want links to anything that I've used here or to check out the blog post that goes with this video, head on over to the blog at acolorfuljourney.com where you can find all of that waiting for you. And while you're over there, check out the freebies too. It's the tab at the top where I've got a free workshop called Permission to Play, as well as my newsletter that has free downloads in it. I'm feeling the urge with this as I'm looking at the B there, that part of it, because it's on top of all the dark stuff on the top of the B, that the bridge there isn't as complete as what I want. So I'm going to use a paintbrush to fill in with a little bit of the leftover black paint so that it makes it more solid and stand out. So I'm going to do that on the bottom first, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing on the top. And I'm going to call this piece of play complete for now. Now the video's almost over, but that doesn't mean the play is coming to an end, because you can always find lots more play over on the blog at acolorfuljourney.com. Well, thanks so much for letting me be a part of your colorful journey.